Hello and welcome to another thrilling installment of Chat DPS. This week, Robert and I will be just talking about a new world-leading scams prevention framework from the Australian government. The PNG Tax Office was involved in a cyber incident this week, or was it? And a new report is suggesting that Australians suffered a cyber incident every second in 2024. Finally, has the government discovered a new method of addressing cyber criminals as allegations are made regarding Medibank? That might be an interesting one. I'm going to hand over to Robert for that one as we come through to it. But first off, Robert, the Australian government have now passed this scams prevention framework. It's being lauded as world leading. Unsurprisingly, I suppose the PR machines are in full pelt for this one. But not before time, I'm guessing. Sort of 2024 alone, Australians reported 250,000 scams that cost a total of $318 million. Now then, the sectors that are really sort of affected by this are really banks, telcos, and the social media companies. What is this thing here? I mean, what does world leading mean in your eyes?
I guess it's because it's part of a fairly broad effort to modernise this type of fraud prevention across various different sectors. So I think it's taken a lead from the UK, and that was focusing mainly on the banking sector. This is going across various different sectors at the moment anyway. So as you mentioned, banking, telcos, and social media sectors as well. So those three sectors tend to be fairly intertwined when it comes to these sorts of scams. So I guess by taking that very broad kind of approach to scam prevention, it's taking things maybe a little bit further than we're seeing in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm reading here that it's $50 million again. So it seems to be a consistent number in terms of the potential fines that are going to be handed down.
Yes.
I mean, is this sort of like about time, too little, too late, or just and proper?
As I mentioned, I think it's the Australian government taking steps across different sectors. So we've seen mandatory ransomware reporting in being introduced at the end of last year. We've seen security of critical infrastructure legislation being introduced over the course of the last couple of years. So there's been several steps being taken. We've seen some changes to the Privacy Act. So this is another step in terms of modernising Australia's approach to looking at these different areas, looking at the different threats that businesses and also consumers face. And this is very much looking at consumer-facing type issues and taking steps to improve each of those areas. So this is, I guess, another arrow to attack these particular threats. So that, you can add that to the quiver of different of different approaches to. That's right, to attack all these different business and consumer-led threats.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I suppose meanwhile, back in reality, PNG Tax Office, the IRC, took a hit. For 2 weeks, though, I think that there were some people up there talking about the fact it was a systems outage when in fact it was a fairly well-documented cyber incident. But I suppose what's been impressive since then is that the Prime Minister Marape has supported the efforts of the IRC, and to quote him, I think he said that this incident highlights the need for continuous investment in cybersecurity. It appears to have been contained, and the email, along with some other systems, will be restored in the coming days. And claims that payments have been maintained during this period. Wait and see on that one. But we were talking about 100 million kina that was invested in 2024. Now then, let's put that into perspective for Australian listeners. That's $39 million approximately. Now, the tax office or the ATO would be spending magnitudes more than that to achieve, I suppose, a secure outcome. Where do you think this lies? Where do you think? I mean, obviously there was a little bit of, oh, we don't know what's happened here, and then it moved into, well, yeah, okay, the IRC is doing a wonderful job, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't have too much detail in terms of what's happened other than the impacts themselves. And I guess it's the unfortunate reality that developing nations are probably seen as maybe a slightly easier target than some more developed nations in terms of where their maturity lies, insofar as having mature cybersecurity systems. So it's just one of those unfortunate things. I think fingers are being pointing towards China and particular hacking groups there. And I guess look, I mean, I think there's a fairly close relationship between the Australian government and the PNG government in terms of support that's been offered now, but also in the past in terms of raising those maturity levels when it comes to improving cybersecurity. But I guess there's still quite a long way to go.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think it's a little bit of a low act. I mean, going after a developing country and what have you. A country that's really sort of like trying to pull itself up by its bootstraps and get stuff done, right? So
Yeah.
that's a really good thing. Well, we wish them well anyway, and hope that they do indeed start getting those payments, sort of flowing again, and that the businesses and what have you that are affected are going to be, compensated in the years and in the weeks ahead. So I'd like to move on again. There was a fairly substantial report that came out this week about Australians suffering a cyber attack every second in 2024. Australia secured the number 11 spot in the race of nations most affected by cybersecurity or cyber attacks anyway. 47 million data breaches in 2024. This report is not cheerful reading. I mean, I've got to tell you, it's a report by a company or an organization called Surfshark, and it suggests that there were 5.6 billion cyber incidents globally. And like China was the most affected by all accounts at 17% of all breaches, followed by Russia, the US, France, and Germany. Australia witnessed 11 times growth in data breaches from 4.1 million to 47 million year on year. This is a problem that's not going away, right?
Yeah, look, I think we've touched on this sort of subject a few times. There's quite a few of these surveys that have been going around, wrapping up 2024, and the numbers are quite scary. And just in terms of numbers of breaches, the fact that Australia always seems to be at the top of the list. I think we've sort of touched on the fact that as a developed nation, threat actors see Australia as a very lucrative market to attack, and the numbers have been trending up year on year.
I mean, but I mean, they must see us as a bit of a soft touch. I mean, respectfully, I mean, we're a nation of 26 million people these days. It's not that great. I mean, we're not even talking California or New York or anything like that. I know that the US is in the top 3, but I mean, of countries that have been affected. But I mean, they must see us as a bit of a soft touch.
Well, clearly they do, and I think that's the message, isn't it? That clearly, as a country, we need to lift our game. And whilst we've touched on some of the work the government's been doing, so we just mentioned the scam prevention framework. Clearly, there's a lot more that has to be done in terms of investing in people, process, and technology. Protecting data, protecting those crown jewels, and trying to push back against this wave of attacks that's coming through.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that came out of this report was the fact that these cyber incidents are becoming far more expensive as well. $4.26 million was one of the numbers that was mentioned, which is a 27% increase from 2020. So, I mean, the report is suggesting another 49 million unique Australian email addresses have been exposed, resulting in 106.9 million leaked passwords. For goodness sake, I mean, there aren't that many people in the country. It's
Goes,
frightening,
goes to
right?
show goes to show how many accounts and passwords people have. So I suppose that's in line. But look, I mean, I suppose the other thing that we probably bang on about is you've got to be proactive about this. If you're reactive and you don't have your people, process, and technology lined up, then it's going to cost you a huge amount of money to clean up the mess.
Yeah, prevention is always better than cure, but I mean, people don't. I mean,
Absolutely.
the costs of prevention these days are a magnitudes less than the cure, but it's still, sort of XY, right? It's still quite up there. And then this last story, which had me confused. So this Medibank story with IT News, alleged to have provided network and services to host and release stolen Medibank bank data. Now, then the government have gone this organization called Z Servers, and there's some, yeah, and who are involved in the ransomware as well as the Medibank breach itself. What's the story? What's the underlying story here?
The underlying story. So Z servers are just part of I guess, the criminal ecosystem. So they provide what's called bulletproof hosting services. They provide infrastructure to criminals essentially. And so if you wanna host some sort of malicious site, whether that's ransomware or something else, Z Service, which is a Russian-based organization as far as we're aware, will host that, and they will ignore Interpol, FBI, everyone else who says you've got to take down whatever your service, your or malicious activity that you've got on there. And so what's happened is Australia with I think it's the sort of AUKUS allies, so the UK, the US are involved as well, have sanctioned both Z Service and a number of named Russian individuals. And so if you interact with Z Service or these particular individuals, then there could be significant fines that you
Mm.
can come up against. I mean, look, it's very unlikely that you're going to be choosing to interact with either this organization or these individuals because, as I say, they're very much part of this cyber criminal ecosystem.
Yeah, so I mean, the story just smacked of sort of like, so the government's going after this organization and they're naming and shaming them out loud. They're sanctioning them. It's all very, very good. Does this not sort of indicate the fact that if you're not doing so already, that you really should be considering, sort of like homegrown, data sovereign data centers for your hosting and IT work?
Yeah, I mean that's certainly part of it. I mean, yeah, I mean clearly the average business is not going to be dealing with Z servers, but I mean data sovereignty is absolutely key, and I think we've sort of touched on it in the past. Is that whether it's through stories like DeepSeek or using or storing your data even in the US, there's always a backdoor. And so, I mean, when it comes to your data, hosting your data within Australia as an Australian business is definitely the way to go.
Okay, Robert. I think those are the stories for this week. I'd like to say thank you for joining me again in another thrilling installment of Chat DPS. Looking forward to catching up with you in person very soon. Oh, we do have some specials as well coming out in the not too distant future. Should be mentioning that. So join Robert and I as we do some extended versions of Chat DPS in the not too distant future. Thank you.